And we're back in Studio D. Courtney Cox, Zach Cox, and Doug Kyde. We're all here. Patriots get their first win of the preseason, a close one, 30-28, the final score out in Detroit. Guys, it was kind of a tale of two halves.
Yeah, and this guarantees the Patriots will not go 0-20 this year, so that is a good sign.
I know a lot of fans
overall.
were very
nervous.
Lots of concerns about that, but gets that out of the way right there. Yeah, really kind of a strange game. I mean, honestly, it was good for the Patriots because their starters looked a lot better than the Lions starters. Yep. Lions backups looked better than the Patriots backups, and Patriots backups are really a bunch of guys who probably won't be on the team, and even if they are, won't be making a meaningful impact this season. So, obviously, other than Julian Edelman's injury, this game had a decent amount of positives for the Patriots.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, the second half really wasn't particularly good for the Patriots' second-team offense or their second-team defense. We saw some flashes later in the game near the tail end of the fourth quarter. The Jimmy Garoppolo-led offense kind of started getting going. DJ Foster looked pretty good out there. But, overall, I feel like most of the things we're going to be talking about this game happened in the first half because the second half was kind of a wash.
Yeah. Well, we saw a lot of Jimmy Garoppolo, like you said, nothing from Jacoby Brissett. Yeah. But when you look at Jimmy, you got to think, what's Bill seeing in him? What's the feeling around Patriots Nation going into the season? It's so close now. What did you like? What didn't you like out of Jimmy G?
I don't think that he stood out too positively in this game, but just the fact that he was able to lead that fourth quarter drive to win the game at the end, I think that he looked at that as a positive. The coaches were kind of smiling on the sideline. Everyone came out of this game with a smile on their face because they were able to win. And I don't think this is a game that Jacoby Brissett probably could have won on the fourth quarter drive. Jimmy didn't do a whole lot there at the end, but Jacoby Brissett has had two opportunities to lead fourth quarter drives for a win. He's failed on both those opportunities. Jimmy gets his first shot and completes it. So overall, you have to look at that as a positive.
Yeah, those last two drives really, neither of them ended in touchdowns, but I think both were very productive, especially after he came into the Jimmy Garoppolo came into the game. I believe he had 4 consecutive 3-and-outs, at least 3 consecutive 3-and-outs. The offense really was just not doing anything for much of that second half, and then they really kind of stabilized. They were able to march down on 2 pretty long drives. Like I said, DJ Foster was a big part of those. Austin Carr had some good catches. James O'Shaughnessy had a drop, which is not going to help his chances there, but overall, near the tail end, it was nice to see some cohesion from that unit.
All right, so you look at Bill Belichick, you look at Patricia, who did not look happy on the sidelines at all during that game.
Yeah.
They kept cutting to him, which we know from working in media that they love to do that when some coach is giving off vibes. But you're those two guys, and you're looking at the team overall, and you're thinking, okay, what do we got to do now moving forward? What are the major parts of the team that they really need to fix?
Well, I don't know if there's anything that you need to desperately fix after this game. I think most of the questions are just there at wide receiver. What happens if Julian Edelman truly is out for the season? We don't know at this point. Could be a torn ACL, could be a sprain. He was carted to the team bus with crutches in tow. That means that he's not walking on the bus. He's not walking on the airplane. That's not a great sign, obviously. So, as we said, if any team is built for an injury like this, it is the 2017 Patriots. They do have Brandon Cooks. They do have Chris Hogan. They do have Danny Amendola. Malcolm Mitchell, once he returns from his injury, will be in the mix as well. So they were going 5 deep at wide receiver, going 4 deep. I guess it's a little bit scarier, but Chris Hogan had a monster game in this game, and if he's going to be your number 2 wide receiver, I think he could have a pretty big season out there.
Yeah, I think obviously Julian Edelman's injury was the big story to take away from this game. We don't, like Doug said, we don't know how serious it is right now. But if it is a point where he will, if it's season ending, or even if it's a case where they put him on IR with the intention of bringing him back halfway through the season, it's really going to change how they construct this roster, and that brings up a lot of questions. Does that mean they keep around an extra receiver like Austin Carr or Devin Lucien? Do they keep DJ Foster around? Do they just keep the 4 wide receivers plus Matthew Slater and use that spot elsewhere? There's a lot of questions that are going to come up. Basically, if Julian Edelman is not 100% and perfectly healthy, it causes a lot of questions on this team. Not questions that I feel like they're very well suited to answer, but it's ones they do have to answer.
I would say just that Matthew Slater's injury kind of complicates this as well. Yeah. Not because he's a wide receiver, but just because they would need someone to fill in his special teams role. So whether that's Kenny Moore at cornerback, or if that's some other fringe roster player suddenly making the roster, then that might mean not carrying another wide receiver. So there's a big trickle-down effect of some of these injuries, but Edelman's is obviously the number one that we're all looking at.
Who do we take away as the major star of Game 3 in the preseason?
To me, it was Chris Hogan. Who was it for you?
I would say a combination of Tom Brady and Chris Hogan, because I guess that one interception, I guess, can kind of be blamed on both of them.
Yeah,
so I'll give both of them pretty strong marks for
They
this
both
game.
looked mad, too, after that.
Yeah.
So you know that there was probably a miscommunication thing.
Brady's not going to throw a ball up into there if he thought that.
It was
Chris Hogan was gonna be. It was a bad ball regardless.
Throw,
Yeah.
Because he basically just punted it to two defenders. I mean, even if Chris Hogan completed his route, he's there competing with two defenders for that ball, which is difficult in itself. But no, I mean, Brady, there's no concerns about him going into this season. And as we were saying before, we expected him to play into that third quarter. The fact that he only needed 2 quarters to prove that he's ready for the regular season, that's a great sign for him. No one's going to be concerned that he's a 40-year-old going into the year when he has a near perfect quarterback rating in the first half, or should have been perfect. But yeah, I mean, overall, I think both those guys had really good games. Eric Rowe made some nice plays. He also kind of led up some big throws there. But yeah, overall, I'd say that Brady and Hogan were the 2 stars.
Well, we've got a quick turnaround. The next time that they play home on Thursday, it's going to be against the Giants. So for you guys, what do you look at going into that game? Starting-wise, we're not going to see the same star performance that we got tonight. Unfortunately for you Patriots fans out there.
No, and I will say that Adam Schefter just tweeted that the Patriots suspect Edelman tore his ACL. He said, but they do not definitely know per source MRI on Sunday to determine the full extent of the injury. So we will not know for 2 days here. Tommy Curran also just tweeted that on Julian Edelman, severity of his knee injury isn't known, but he's showing resolve, whatever the diagnosis is. I am relentless, he texted. So not looking good on initial diagnosis for Julian Edelman there, per Adam Schefter. But, you know, MRI on Sunday, so that's going to be a long 2-day wait for Patriots fans.
Do they have to wait for the swelling to go down to do the MRI? Like, why would they wait?
I do not
Till
know.
Sunday.
Unfortunately, my medical expertise is
Wait,
not very.
we didn't all go to med school?
I know. Sorry to let you guys down.
That's shocking.
But yeah, but no, this is going to be a very long 48 hours then for Patriots fans, waiting to hear whether one of their top offensive weapons is going to be here or not. And like we said, both fans and the team are going to be waiting because they need to make roster cuts in a week and a half right now, and whether Julian Edelman's going to be a part of this team is going to play a big role in who they keep around and who they don't.
It's obviously, we talk first about what's on the field about Julian Edelman, and if he's not on this team, then that means that Chris Hogan, all these other guys have to step up. But I mean, it's terrible to think of Julian Edelman being down for this season, just because he is kind of the heart and soul of that offense. Obviously, Tom Brady is as well, but Edelman has worked so hard to get to this point. Just signed a new contract there with the Patriots, and now if his season is over before it even started, then I mean, you kind of have to wonder if it's really worth it to even put these guys on the field in these preseason games. Obviously, the coaches determine that it is, but when a guy's tearing his ACL the 3rd time he touches the ball in the preseason, or 4th time or whatever it was, that's really tough.
And we've all been in the locker room. We all see, you know, how he gets everybody kind of fired up. So, you know, I think team morale probably right now isn't great getting on the bus, even though that they are coming away with a win.
Yeah, definitely. And as for that 4th preseason game, you know, that's not a game where we'll see any of these meaningful players play in that game. So I probably wouldn't expect any huge injuries like this one in that game, because it's going to be the Jimmy Garoppolo and Jacoby Brissett show. And that, I mean, it might be a game where they kind of decide whether Jacoby Brissett's going to make this roster. We're talking about roster spots right now. He has not looked great in those first 2 preseason games. He's been sailing a lot of passes. And if they either want to slide him onto the practice squad, if they want to try to do that, they could try to do that. Or, I mean, with Edelman down, if Edelman goes to injured reserve, maybe that opens a roster spot for Jacoby Brissett. Maybe, you know, now that they have the free open spot with Edelman on IR, if he does go to IR one way or the other, then yeah, maybe that's a way that they keep a guy like Brissett. Yeah,
and when you look at the 4th preseason game, it's a game where obviously you don't see a lot of starters, a lot of high-profile players, and really, if you do see a guy playing in a 4th preseason game rather, it's usually not a great sign for him, especially for a veteran. That's why I'm going to be looking at Coney Ely. He played the entire second half tonight, didn't play at all in the first half. He actually really impressed me in his first series or 2 out there. He was generating some really good pressure, especially from the inside. And then he just looked tired. He was barely even moving off the snap late in the game. He looked like his conditioning really just is not where it needs to be. And the fact that a veteran like that is playing so deep into a preseason game. I mean, third preseason game is a game where veterans play a lot, but at this point, it was basically Coney Ely and Jonathan Freeney, who also is, I think, pretty far down on the depth chart right now. So those are two guys that I think are in a battle right now. They're going to have to, not a battle with each other, but in a battle for respective roster spots. And those are two guys you could see that really have something to prove in Game 4 if they play.
One other tweet here from Ian Rappaport of NFL Media. He also says that the Patriots believe that Julian Edelman suffered a torn ACL, but he says the MRI is tomorrow to confirm.
Okay.
So maybe Patriots fans will only have to wait one night to
Makes
to
more
get that
sense,
news.
too.
Yeah, because I don't know why they would have had to wait until Sunday.
Unless it has something to do with, getting the swelling down.
I don't know.
I would imagine they want to know as soon as they can.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean,
only one sleepless night for Pats fans everywhere.
Yeah, it's tough news though. I mean, that's really rough for Julian, because obviously, like you said, I mean, he wants to be on these Super Bowl Patriots teams, and it's tough. And
you bring up the fact that it's like, is it worth it for these stars to be on the field during preseason? We've seen Gronk battle this time in, time out. So then to see another one of the stars on the Patriots to go down like that, that's not something that anybody wants to see.
No, and it's a non-contact thing. It's just, I mean, the more reps you get on the field, the more chance there is for injury. And I guess these types of things, I guess, can happen during training camp too, but it's just not as high energy out there. So you'd certainly rather see an injury like this. I mean, obviously you never want to see an injury occur, but in a meaningful game rather than a completely meaningless game.
Yeah, and we said this last time, preseason's so long. I think I mean, once you're in it, you're like, wow, this is the longest preseason
I think
ever.
They could go to 3 games.
Yeah.
I mean, especially the way that the Patriots were using the second game where, Brady played 3 drives. Obviously, it might have been more than we were expecting at the time, but when a guy's only out there for 3 drives, you could probably condense it into 3 games, and then at least, there's less of a chance for injury at that point.
Yeah.
Well, coming away with after Game 3 with a win, but a sad storyline that we're going to probably be talking about for at least this week, and if it is a torn ACL, much longer than that. But Thursday night, we will be back. I'll be at the game.
I will be at the game.
We will be at the game.
Guys!
All right.
Oh, yeah.
Come say hi if you're there. We'll be down at Gillette.
Don't say hi to me. Just say hi to Courtney.
Live pregame show on the field.
Yep. It'll be a good time. So an exciting last preseason game. Hopefully they go 2-2 in the preseason, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, for the fans' sake, at least let them see a win.
Right, yeah. If you're not going to see the stars, at least see a win.
Yeah.
But make sure to talk to us all throughout the week on NESN.com. We will have all your NFL needs. We will be keeping up with this Julian Edelman news and making sure that you guys know about it right when we know about it. Follow along on Twitter at Zach Cox Nesson, at Doug Kide, or at Cox Courtney. But thanks for tuning in tonight. If you went 3 for 3 with us, we appreciate it. But we will see you next week, Thursday night, Gillette Stadium. Pats Giants, one that you don't want to miss. Go out to Gillette, summer night, round out August with hopefully a Pats win.
Absolutely.
Thanks for tuning in.